So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about what is on my mind today. Thank you, Peretz Halevi. You did a beautiful job. Okay, so, many years ago, I know Maurice is going to remember this. I don't know if anybody else will, but many years ago on Yom Kippur, I was asked to alternately sing a song while Maurice read a script in order to raise money for our congregation's annual appeal. I know he'll remember that. But for two reasons. First of all, and the best reason was, there was more money raised that year than any other time, right? It worked. However, it wasn't working for everybody. A lot of people thought it was not right to be singing songs on Yom Kippur because it was too lighthearted for the occasion. And that wasn't so good. So we raised more money than ever before, but it hurt people. So even though the congregation needs to raise money, offending people is not the right thing to do, ever, especially on Yom Kippur when we're supposed to be apologizing for doing that. So we never did it again. But today, of course, is not Yom Kippur. It's just a nice Shabbos. And it is, however, the second Shabbos of consolation. During this time, we look for ways to ease our depression that peaked on Tisha B'Av. Remember, Tisha B'Av is considered the black fast day because it is so sad. And Yom Kippur is actually the white fast day because it is a good thing, because we know we're there to have all of our sins forgiven by God. So that's good, but it still was inappropriate to many people. So we didn't want to offend anyone. But this is the song I sang based on what we did. If I were a rich man, diddle, 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 dum. All day long I'd biddy, biddy, bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Diddle, 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 dum. If I were a bitty, bitty rich, diddle, 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 diddle man. And that's what I sang. And that offended people, but it raised money. So, and I've been thinking about that ever since. And you can't forget things like that, because it was just an amazing situation. You did it, it worked, and it blew up as well. It's like no good deed goes unpunished, right? But if only I were a rich man. Who here has never wished to have more? It seems that regardless of our level of success in life, there is always more that we want, all the time. Most of us must pay our rent or mortgages. We cringe when we must pay those ever-increasing taxes they take it from us, by the various levels of government. You don't just pay one tax, you pay to the feds, you pay to the state, you pay to the town, and also to the county you're in. To me, it's different forms of legalized theft. I know we need to pay tax, but sometimes it gets out of hand. So no matter how hard we try to save for our retirement, why is it not working as well as it should? Why? Today, we find ourselves held hostage by an economy that we are told is improving, but not for us, for somebody else. Some of us go back to work after retirement to make things easier for us. Many of us must help our children who this economy is also not helping. Still, others must contribute to our grandchildren's tuitions. Planning ways to place a few more dollars into our pockets is on so many of our minds. We take a breath of relief when we see the stock market go up. It's good for our retirement, it's good for everything. But then we hold our heads in our hands when we see it go down. We invest in lottery tickets and trips to our favorite casinos, rationalizing it by saying, somebody has to win, and it could just as easily be me. Well, we all know that we probably wind up with less than when we started. If we do win, here come those pesky taxes again. So there are very few of us who do not dream about what even a little extra money could do for us. We all think it would really be nice to have much more, or even a little more. To think this way is okay, because it is, after all, one of the things that today's Torah reading was teaching us. This is so ingrained in the Jew that there is a popular Yiddish expression that, translated into English, says, rich or poor, it is good to have money. By the way, that did not come from the famous American philosopher Yogi Berra, but it sure sounds like it. It really is a Yiddish expression. On the other hand, the great Jewish philosopher, one of the most famous and greatest Jewish philosophers, Rabbi Eli, whoever he is, always teaches that there are only two things that money cannot buy: health and poverty. Health and poverty, that's it. So even though we yearn for more money, compared to the world's population, you and I really are much better off than just being okay. We are, if you compare it to everybody else in the world. So if we focus on the Jews of the world for a second, while there are too many of our people caught in poverty, and there are, in general, Jews today are far more financially secure than our people have ever been. That's a fact. So even so, in spite of what the record number of the anti-Semites in the world would want society to believe, we do not control the world's economic status. We don't. Most of the world's Jews are in the middle class, and we live relatively comfortable lives, even though too many of our people continue to suffer the fear of anti-Semitism. Money is one thing. Anti-Semitism is quite another. Through the ages, we had to suffer crusades, the Inquisition, pogroms, the Holocaust, and daily attacks from fundamentalist Islamic hatred. It is getting much worse by the day. So due to the way we dealt with our most recent global pandemic, COVID, Jews were forced to become socially and religiously separated as a people. Today, Jewish congregations are struggling to rebuild. Some can't, and they go out of business. The thing is, we Jews still live more comfortably than most people. We must be very careful, however, not to deceive ourselves into thinking that our comfort will exist forever, because historically, nothing lasts forever. As Jews, we must recognize that everything we have achieved was built on our rich value system that we get from our Torah and from our Jewish society. And we sing, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to sing it. Maybe you could join me. It's not If I Were a Rich Man. This is from Pirkei Avot. This is from the Ethics of Our Ancestors. Al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, ha'olam ha'olam omeid. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. There are three things upon which the world stands. What are they? Torah, prayer, and deeds of loving kindness. That's what keeps us alive. That's what's kept us alive all these years. Torah, prayer, and deeds of loving kindness. These values guided our ancestors from ancient times. That does not make them old-fashioned or obsolete. In fact, in the Army, they used to define obsolete as it works. Not that it wasn't good anymore. It works. These core Jewish values may be more important today as they ever were. Think about it. Our ancestors who are looking down upon us right now would be proud of our success, but they are even more worried that these values are no longer our priorities. While it is for other religions, poverty is not a Jewish value. Some religions want to plead poverty, not the Jew. We are taught to achieve financial success. But why? Why should we be successful? So we will have enough to share our blessings with the ones who do not, to help the poor, to help the ill and disadvantaged, to help widows and orphans. This Jewish value is tzedakah, doing righteous deeds for those who need it. So today's Torah reading reminds us that God's greatness shines through us when we volunteer to care for the needy, the orphan, the widow, the stranger, the ill, and the poor. The divine's greatness shines through each of us as we selfishly partner with God in creation that is ongoing in the present. That is such an interesting notion. Creation is in the present, still ongoing. But what is interesting is that today's Torah reading does not focus on taking care of the disadvantaged. No, that is a lesson we should have all learned by now. Every Jew has experienced the good feeling that we get when we give tzedakah. You feel good. I never say give till it hurts. I say give till it feels good. Ironically, today's Torah reading focuses us on the dangers of prosperity. It tells us that we should be very worried that the material success that will blind us to the reason for our successes. Moshe's greatest fear is that we will not learn from the experiences and sacrifices of our ancestors, and that we will become so arrogant that we will forget to keep God at the center of our lives. Moshe is afraid that we will become so arrogant that we will believe we no longer need Torah and that we no longer need God. Moshe is afraid we will become so arrogant that we will no longer observe any of the mitzvot. Moshe is afraid that we will become so arrogant and comfortable that we will no longer even think of God, let alone need God. It is interesting that the poor seek out God, but the comfortable so easily forget God. So in today's Torah reading, Moshe describes the riches of the promised land where they're going to be going. He promises it to the generation of Bnei Israel who were raised in the desert. He describes a land that is rich and fertile, that is blessed with many streams and springs, that is lush with flourishing crops, that is rich and abundant in natural resources. Moshe tells them that in contrast to their desert poverty, their new home will be a land in which they will lack nothing. Then Moshe warns them not to let their newfound prosperity make them arrogant. That's in today's Torah reading. They are to remember that the land and its riches are not there by accident. They're gifts from God. They're not from idols or governments or princes or from any other human. That's not where our riches come from. Moshe tells them that they could never have gotten these riches on their own without God's help. Moshe says that the greatest danger Bnei Israel will face in their new land is nothing but their own pride and their own arrogance. Moshe warns them that they will mistakenly believe their success is from the power and strength of society, not from God. Then Moshe reminds Bnei Israel that they are truly unworthy to be receiving such a blessed gift. He reminds them of the numerous times during their 40 years of wandering in the desert that Bnei Israel was disloyal to God. Moshe also reminds them that God is at the core of their strength and upcoming prosperity, and that just as God took the promised land from the Canaanites, God will take the land from Bnei Israel if they become unworthy. And we saw that happen, and people are trying to do it again. Then, at the end of Moshe's description of the lushness of the land flowing with milk and honey, and that didn't happen by the people, God did that. So Moshe tells Bnei Israel to eat their fill, but to always turn their thoughts to God and to thank God for the gift of their great land, that they must always acknowledge God and work hard not to become prideful, ungrateful, and arrogant. What is the prayer over bread, the challah, the bread? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives us bread from where? From the land. Who gave us the land? It wasn't us. But God allows us to prosper because of what God gave us. But it is from the blessing that we are challenged. We are commanded to remember that our good fortune was passed down to us, lador vador, from generation to generation. They protected our Torah and our traditional Jewish values. Even in the Holocaust, the Jews studied Torah. Even when they had nothing to eat, they studied Torah. They prayed. So let us thank God by sharing our blessings with others who are less fortunate than we are. We must. It's a commandment. It's a mitzvah. It's not a good deed. Mitzvah doesn't mean good deed. It means commandment. And as Moshe commanded our ancestors, and here's what the commandment was, you shall eat and be satisfied and bless Adonai your God for the good land God has given you. Not for the food, but for the good land. So in closing, I urge everyone to always remember that while poverty is not a Jewish value, arrogance is not either. What I find very interesting is that the song with which I started this Devar Torah ends with exactly the same message. If I were a rich man, diddle deedle diddle deedle diddle deedle diddle dum, Lord who made the lion and the lamb, you decreed I should be what I am. Would it spoil some vast eternal plan if I were a wealthy man? So let us always remember to thank God for what we have, not only at services and on Shabbat, but every single moment of every single day. Without God, we have nothing. We don't even exist. So the best way to do this is to go back to celebrating Shabbat and the festivals by coming together as we did before COVID. Since we are both a religion and a community, it's up to us to figure this out. And I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom and an Am Yisrael Chai.